All right, so like picture this.
Yeah.
Your brain's this crazy complex lock, right?
Yeah.
And all these neurotransmitters are the keys floating around.
Mm-hmm.
And these keys, they unlock all these different functions and feelings and stuff. But then there are these like special keys,
Oh,
these
yeah.
agonist keys. They don't just unlock things, they can like totally hijack the system.
Yeah, totally.
So in this deep dive, we're going to explore agonists
Yeah.
and how they work.
It's going to be a wild ride. Fasten your seatbelts.
Yeah, so basically agonists are these chemicals that bind to receptor sites on neurons, right?
Right.
And that basically makes the neurons fire.
Yeah, it's like they're tricking the neuron into thinking it's
Nah.
getting a signal from its buddy,
Yeah,
it's out of their neuron.
But really it's this sneaky little agonist messing with the whole system.
Exactly.
And there are two main types, right?
You got it.
There's the endogenous ones, which are like your brain's natural keys.
Like dopamine, right?
Yeah, dopamine, the good old feel-good chemical. But then there are the exogenous agonists,
Yeah, those are the ones that come from outside the brain.
like from certain substances, right?
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting or maybe a little scary.
Okay, so today we're going to deep dive into a very specific exogenous agonist, alcohol,
Ah, yes.
and how it basically messes with dopamine and what that tells us about like the whole alcoholism
The
thing.
dopamine mimic. It's a fascinating
Yeah.
story.
Right.
So, alcohol, it acts like a fake dopamine key.
Okay.
It binds to those dopamine receptors,
Okay.
especially in the nucleus accumbens.
Now, hold on.
Yeah, yeah.
Nucleus accumbens, for those who don't, live and breathe brain science,
Yeah, fair enough.
that's like the brain's reward center, right?
Bingo. That's where all the pleasure and motivation happens.
Okay, so alcohol is basically hitting the pleasure button directly.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that explains why drinking can, make you feel good.
At least initially.
Initially, right.
Mm.
But as with most things in life, it gets a little more complicated than that.
Way more complicated.
All right, so there was this really interesting study, right?
Uh-huh.
The Setiawan study from like back in 2013.
Yeah, 2013, that's right.
And they looked at like how alcohol affects the brain.
Yeah, specifically the reward system.
Yeah, but in people with different risks for alcoholism.
Right, that was the key.
So like imagine two people hanging out, having a drink.
Same amount of alcohol.
Yeah, same amount, same everything, but they react totally differently, right?
And this study sheds light on why that might be.
So walk us through it. Like, what did they actually do in this study?
Okay, so they had 26 social drinkers, right?
Yep.
And they categorized them as either high or low risk for alcoholism.
How did they do that?
Well, they used personality traits,
Okay.
and also looked at their sensitivity to alcohol's effects.
I see. So like how easily they get tipsy and stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then they used PT scans to see what was going on in their brains.
While they were drinking.
Well, first they had them drink juice, like as a control.
Okay. And then later they had them drink alcohol.
Same amount.
Same deal. 3 drinks in 15 minutes for both conditions.
Okay, so everyone's basically on the same playing field, drink-wise, right?
Yep, exactly.
But different risk levels for alcoholism. So what happened?
Well, the results were pretty mind-blowing, actually.
Yeah. Spill the tea.
So when they were drinking alcohol, the high-risk group, they showed way more activity
Uh-huh.
in the nucleus accumbens, that reward center we talked about,
Yeah, yeah.
compared to the low-risk group
Whoa, so their brains were
going nuts.
like party time,
Exactly.
even though they were having the same amount of alcohol as the low-risk group.
Right. It's like their reward systems were just more sensitive to it.
Okay, so what does that mean, like, in the grand scheme of things?
Well, it suggests that people who are predisposed to alcoholism might be getting a much bigger dopamine rush from alcohol,
Okay.
making it like super rewarding for them.
And potentially more addictive.
Wow. So it's like some brains have like VIP access to the reward pathway when alcohol's around.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful image.
So, I mean, this study, it's not just some, abstract scientific thing, right?
Right.
This has real world implications
Absolutely. It helps us understand why some people are more vulnerable to alcoholism than others.
and could even lead to like better treatments.
Right. That's the hope. More targeted, more effective treatments based on individual brain chemistry.
Okay, now I know we have a lot of IB Psych students listening.
Oh, yeah.
And this study,
Textbook example.
yeah, it's a gold mine for those SAQs, those short answer questions.
You sure?
Any tips on how to like ace an SAQ about this study?
Okay, so first off, define your terms.
Okay.
What's an agonist?
Right.
Give a specific example, like alcohol.
Right.
Then walk through the study. What was the aim?
Yeah.
How was it conducted, the procedure?
Aim procedure.
And then, of course, the results.
Result.
What did they find?
Okay.
But the most important thing, explain what the study tells us, right?
Okay.
About how the agonist, the alcohol, impacts behavior.
So, like, why those high-risk folks light up like a Christmas tree when they drink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how that might make them more susceptible to alcoholism.
So it's not just about memorizing the facts, it's about understanding the connections, right?
Yeah, show that critical thinking. Connect the dots.
Awesome. Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive into the world of agonists and alcohol.
Yeah, it's always amazing to see how these tiny little chemicals can have such a huge impact on our behavior.
Right. It's like we think we're in control, but then these little agonists are pulling the strings behind the scenes.
In some ways, yeah.
It makes you wonder what other everyday substances are acting like agonists without us even realizing it. Something to think about.
Definitely something to ponder.
All right. Well, that's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.